Today, we're diving into something really important: how to build genuine, respectful relationships with Indigenous peoples. And this isn't just about a checklist of do's and don'ts. It's about a fundamental shift in how we approach collaboration itself. And this quote, it just gets right to the heart of it. The key phrase here is "on their own terms." That idea is really the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. It's the principle that unlocks the entire process. So here's the path we're going to take. We'll start with why this is all so important. Then we'll get into the prep work, the first contact protocols, how to build trust that lasts, and finally, how to honor the community's teachers and guides. Okay, first things first. Why is focusing on relationships so critical? Well, it goes way beyond just being polite. To get it, we really have to start by acknowledging a difficult past. To really understand the starting point today, we have to look at this history. We're talking about generations of broken promises, of knowledge being taken without consent. And because of that, trust is the single most valuable and honestly the most fragile thing you can build. And this leads to a huge shift in how you need to think about things. We're so used to business thinking, but this is about business to community. You're not just dealing with one person or one office, you're engaging with an entire, deeply interconnected community. And once you get that, it changes your entire approach. So, with that foundation laid, let's talk about the next stage, the preparation. You can think of it as the work before the work, because honestly, some of the most important steps you'll take happen long before you ever even shake hands. You've probably seen this iceberg analogy before, right? Well, it is perfect here. The stuff we see on the surface, art, ceremonies, things like that, that's just the tip. To really get it, you've got to understand what's below the surface: the history, the values, the way decisions are made in that specific community. So what does that homework actually look like? Well, it means you got to research the specific community you want to engage with. And this is so important. Indigenous peoples are not a monolith. Every single nation is unique. And taking the time to learn, even something small like a basic greeting, shows that you care enough to have put in the effort. Now, here's a really key piece of that learning, something that often trips people up. The terms elder and knowledge keeper are not interchangeable. An elder is a title of immense respect given by the community based on wisdom, not age. A knowledge keeper often learns from an elder and is a caretaker of very specific teachings. Knowing the difference is a fundamental sign of respect. All right, so you've done your homework, you're prepared, now what? Let's get into the practical, on-the-ground advice for making that first contact a success. This is where all that preparation really starts to pay off. Those first few moments can make all the difference. For example, a really firm handshake might come across as aggressive, so a softer one has become a way to, meet in the middle. And when you introduce yourself, say your full name and where you're from. It's about placing yourself, about opening the door for connection. Little things matter. And here's a simple but really powerful gesture: share food. It's a traditional and incredibly meaningful way to start building a partnership. Offering a meal or even just some snacks and coffee isn't just about being a good host. It's a sign of respect and a genuine desire to connect. Great, so the first meeting went well, but that's literally just the beginning. The real work is turning that good first impression into a lasting bridge of trust. So let's talk about the principles for cultivating that long-term relationship. Okay, this first one is the big one. You have to be trustworthy. Given that whole history of broken promises we talked about, your word is absolutely everything. A good mantra to live by is promise less and deliver more. An empty promise can cause damage that's almost impossible to repair. And right alongside being trustworthy is being transparent. You can't really have one without the other. Be open about your intentions right from the start. And you know what's even more important? Being honest when things go wrong. Hiding a problem will shatter trust, but facing it openly can actually make the relationship stronger. And it doesn't stop there. You need to be respectful, which, by the way, your homework already shows. Be invested. This isn't a one-and-done visit, so budget for the time it will take. Be involved. Show up for community events. It shows you care about the people, not just the project. And finally, you have to be patient. So patient. Community decisions have their own rhythm, and you just can't rush them. All right, for our final section, let's focus on something incredibly important: the specific ways to engage with the community's guides, the elders and the knowledge keepers whose wisdom you might be seeking. So this is a question a lot of people have. How do you do it? How do you respectfully ask for their time, for their knowledge, for their guidance? Well, there is a very specific and deeply meaningful protocol for this, and it begins with a sacred medicine. In many First Nations and Métis cultures, you make a formal request by offering tobacco. Now, let's be super clear. This is not a gift. It's so much more than that. It's a physical symbol of your respect for them and for the knowledge you're asking for. The exchange itself is like a formal contract. So what does that actually sound like in practice? Well, here's a great example. You state your name, you offer the tobacco, and you clearly and humbly state what you're asking for. It's direct, it's respectful, and it honors the entire process. But their respect doesn't end with the tobacco offering. Not even close. Elders and knowledge keepers are professionals. Their knowledge is their life's work. It's not a volunteer role, so you must compensate them with an honorarium. Cover their expenses, make sure they're comfortable. And this last point is huge. Don't just invite them for a prayer and then ignore them. You're there to learn from their wisdom, so engage with it. And that brings us to our final question, which comes from that idea of the soft handshake, of meeting in the middle. It's not about one side completely adopting the ways of the other. It's about both sides taking a step forward to create a new space, a space built on mutual respect. The real question is, are you ready to do your part?